Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Friday Live. It is Friday, the 21st of April, and I am, hang on, just get my, sorry, microphone isn't quite in the right position. Sorry, everybody. There we go. I was just playing with my dog and then it went live before I realized. All right, here's got my microphone on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Friday Live. It's Fiona Lukeis here on this day, Friday, the 21st of April. For those of you who may be new to my Friday Lives, this is where I go live every Friday at approximately 12:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time, just to answer any questions that you might have, to see what it is I can expand on for you, help in any way, whether it's about relationships, life, anything at all. Feel free to throw a question my way and I will do my absolute best to answer it for you. I'm just going to give things a little bit of time to filter through, because I know the notification that I'm live takes a little while for people to see it. But if you are watching and you're just tuning in, as always, please say hello. I love to know who's out there, who's listening. And if you have a question for me, please ask away. I find the questions are just gold. So many people tell me that I get email after email and messages from people saying that each question that gets asked and sent in helps them enormously. And of course, you can always send me a question in confidentially. I do not need to mention names, and there's so much commonality amongst us humans that your question will absolutely be the question that so many other people are really looking for an answer to. Okay, so if you do have one, feel free to let me know. Hey, Christy, thanks for saying hi. Nice to see you on the stream. Anybody else who wants to say hi? I really appreciate it. And of course, post your questions below. Let me know where you're listening from. Hi, Mick. Nice to see you, Mick. Thanks for joining me on this Friday afternoon, the 21st of April. Can you believe we're about to hit May? We're about to hit the 5th month of the year. It's just crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. Hi, Di. You're in Perth. Great. Thanks for saying hi. And you're on YouTube. Nice to know there's someone in YouTube land listening to me. So that's great to hear. And we've got another Diane from Richmond, USA. Awesome. Fantastic. Hi. Thanks for saying hi. Really appreciate it. Yes, it will still be Thursday, there for you. That's right. Because Australia's about 18 hours ahead of everybody, apart from New Zealand. New Zealand is 2 hours ahead of Australia, but we are ahead of everybody. I always find that time of year when it's New Year's Eve, by the time you guys are celebrating New Year's Eve over there in the US and Canada, we're almost at the end of the first day of the year, and we're still, we're like, that was ages ago, and you guys are just hitting it. I find it fascinating. So yeah, it's still Thursday night for you, Friday 12:30 or 12:40 here. Thanks so much for saying hi. Anybody else who wants to do so, please jump in and let me know where you're listening from. I love to know. It's one of the things I love, the connectedness of the internet, and how we can all come together, even though we're in different time zones. We can still be together at this exact point of time and connect and help each other create something really special here, answer each other's questions. Hey, Simone. Hi. You're on the road en route to South Australia. Oh wow. Okay, safe travels, safe driving, safe travels. I'm presuming you're not driving. Obviously, if you're tuning in, it means your hubby must be driving. So welcome. Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. I'm sorry we didn't catch up when you were here. I actually was going to message you, just about to message you about that. But anyway, anybody else who wants to say hi, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to get in and start answering some questions that have been sent through. Obviously, if you are live and you want me to answer a question for you, please do so. I will do whatever I can to answer that for you. So the first question I'm going to respond to today, let me just bring it up. So this is someone, for those of you who are tuning in, many of you have discovered me probably through my ebook or whatever, which I advertise in the US, in Canada, and in lots of different places. And so this is a question that came in on one of my Facebook ads. And I want to answer it for this lady because I think it's a really great question. I can see your question there, Christy. I'll come to you in just a second. So this question just showed up earlier today, and it says here, You say in your post that hubby hadn't changed, you yourself felt disconnected, and that what you both had was no longer working. What if hubby has changed and you have tried the begging and pleading and kicking and screaming to try to get him to understand that everything we have is hanging by a very fine thread, but he doesn't change? Is there any chance whatsoever that this marriage can be saved and revived? I think this is a really important question, and I'm going to do my best to answer it, okay, as best I can, without knowing obviously any more than the paragraph than what this, the paragraph than, sorry, let me get my words right, without knowing any more than the paragraph that's been sent in, that was sent into me. Okay, so first of all, I do want to say when my husband and I were struggling around 6.5 years into our marriage, he had changed in the sense that he was withdrawn. He had made decisions about things that I didn't agree with. We were very disconnected. I felt that he wasn't the same person that I had married, and it felt like our differences were insurmountable in my mind. We just seemed too different. I firmly believed, or I reached that place in myself where I believed that I was just married to the wrong man. That's what I believed. And so that would go round and round and round in my head. And it's almost like, when something goes round and round enough, it's almost when something goes around and around in your head enough, you start to see all the evidence that's a match for that. And that starts to become the only thing that you can see, right? That starts to become the only thing that you can see. So I had this going around and around in my head. And the more that went around and around in my head, I'm married to the wrong man. We're not compatible. I should have written a list. These are the things that I started to write down. I should have written a list. If I'd written a list, I wouldn't have had someone who does this, this, and this, or doesn't do this, this, and this. And I just had this going around in my head. And then everything that he would do or not do would just be more evidence to me that I was right, that my thinking was right, my thinking was true, that I was right, that I was married to the wrong person. And this would go around and around and around in my head. And I would see the evidence to support that everywhere. And the more evidence I saw, the more disconnected I became. And the more disconnected I became, the angrier, more resentful. This was my way of, and we all have different ways of showing up in the world when our frailties, as I would call them, are on display. Okay. And everybody's got frailties. You have them. Every single person listening to this live, watching this, if you're a human being, you have frailties, and you cannot positize frailties away. You cannot personal development frailties away. You cannot. That's like trying to change the trajectory of the wind. You can't do it. Okay. So there's so much stuff out there that talks about how to, be the best version of you. Yes and no, right? The best version of you is what's on display in this moment of now. That's it. Now, it doesn't mean that can't be improved over time or changed, but when your frailties are on display, and they will be, and they are, and there's nothing like an intimate relationship to have them be on display the most. Okay. I often have people say to me, and I had a couple of new clients say this to me this week, but Fiona, my friends don't think that I'm difficult. But Fiona, I don't have these arguments with my friends. My friends don't think that I'm resentful. My friends think that I'm really self-aware and self-reflective. My friends can't understand what my partner's upset about, right? And I always say to these people, you are not comparing apples with apples, because there is a way that you will show up to your friends, right? You're on best behavior with your friends. Okay, you're on best behavior with your friends. You would not say to your partner, you would not say to your friends the things that you do and say to your partner. Okay, that's just a fact. And nobody sees the worst of you the way your partner does, or the people that you live with. Your friends don't see your dark side, your frailties, the way that your partner does, because they are with you 24/7. They are with you when you're tired, when you're grumpy, when you can't be bothered, when you come home from a long day at work and you don't want to talk to anyone, and you're spent and you've got nothing left in the tank, and you don't want to cook dinner, or you don't want to deal with the kids, or you don't want to deal with life. You just want to disappear, right? We've all had that experience. So, your intimate partner sees all of that. Nobody sees you the way they do, which is why relationships are the greatest opportunity for you to grow as a spiritually, emotionally, mentally. They really are. And so when you're sitting there saying, but my friends don't, you are not comparing apples with apples. So I can guarantee you, you have never shown up to or spoken to your friends the way you do with your partner when your frailties are out and you're feeling insecure and tired and shut down or whatever. It just doesn't happen. So your friends don't see what your partner does. So I realize I've drifted a little bit away from the question, but I'm coming back to it. So I guess what I want to say is, it's not that when I say that my husband hadn't changed, what I meant was, where we were was very disconnected, and he had changed. He had shut down. He was very quiet. He'd withdrawn, and we were like two separate people sharing a roof together. Okay, there wasn't a lot of connectedness. There wasn't a lot of what I would call the we. There was just two me's. Me going through the motions of life, him doing what he was doing, and that can feel very lonely, right? I know that. I have a lot of people say that to me. It feels super lonely. How can you feel lonely when you're actually living under the same roof as someone? So I guess what I'm saying is, there's two answers to this question. First of all, is there any chance whatsoever that this marriage can be saved and revived? Yes, there is, but without knowing more than what you've sent through, all I can say is anything is possible. And I have seen the impossible become possible. I have had people come to me who have literally drawn up a separation agreement, who have got it ready to go to be signed, and have decided that they're going to give it one more go. Like, they're that close. They've got the lawyers out. They've worked everything out. Give it another go. Learn the understanding that I teach and turn things around. So anything is possible. All right. It doesn't mean it has to be, though, or it should be, but I want to say anything is possible. Now, I think the other thing that I want to just point to with this question that's kind of been said to me here is, what if hubby has changed and you've tried the begging and pleading and kicking and screaming to try to get him to understand? I think one of the things that we've got to realize is that when you come at someone that way, and I understand if you haven't been heard for a long time why you would, but if you come at someone from that place, right, where you're pushing and there's a lot of outward kind of energy going this way, people tend to shut down. There's nowhere for them to step into, right? There's nowhere for them to step into. And so, we are energetic beings, and we are always interacting energetically before we are physically. This is so important. People don't understand just how absolutely crucial the understanding of the energy that you bring or your flavor is. And it is the one thing that we really are, most people are totally oblivious to. We don't realize the energy that we're bringing to something. We don't realize the flavor. I hear this time and time again from my clients when we've done some sessions together, or my students in my Relatable program who'll say to me, oh my goodness, Fiona, I thought I was calm. I thought I was neutral. and I was so none of those things. And no wonder the other person has shut down, or is not listening, or is bouncing stuff back. Now, as I explain this, don't hear this as if I'm saying it's your fault. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to point you towards is, there's a way to approach something where you feel empowered, and there's a way to approach something where you feel very disempowered. Okay, so there's a very different energy from someone who's trying to turn something around, connect, approach change with someone from an empowered place, versus someone who is trying to do that from a very disempowered place. Now, I'm going to suggest, and again, I've only just seen this one paragraph, I'm going to suggest to this person that you are approaching this from a very disempowered place. Okay, so when we approach something from a very disempowered place, our energy is very different. Okay, very, very different. And without realizing it, we are actually inadvertently, innocently, and I really mean this, inadvertently and innocently pushing the other person away. We're not giving them any room to move or breathe. Okay, and so you can be saying, please, I want this to work, I want to change, I want to do whatever, but you've got to understand, if your energy is pushing that person away, there's nowhere for them to move, there's nowhere for them to go. And so if their frailty is to shut down and move away, because that's kind of their go-to, that will happen tenfold. And it will look like that they don't care, but it's more because they're stuck. They don't know how to respond. They are also walking on eggshells. They're scared that whatever they say, they're going to get it wrong. And so you go into this very kind of like, I guess it's like a figure eight, this toxic figure eight cycle where one person's pushing and the other person's shutting down. And that was very much where my husband and I were, because I would go up to him and say, we need to talk about this. But of course, I would have this really angry tone, very intense energy, very kind of aggressive, without realizing. I didn't realize what I was doing, and or how I was showing up. I didn't realize my flavor. Okay. And that had such a negative impact on my husband, and he would just disappear, and I would get angry, and then he would shut down more. And it just became, I really, it's this figure eight, because I would influence that, he would influence me, and then we would just go like this. And it just looped and looped and looped and looped and looped and looped and looped until you got to a point where, you've done that groundhog cycle for so long that you're just totally shut down. You're both in self-protection mode, and nobody knows where to go from there. And I truly believe the majority of relationships break down because people get to this point of, I'd love to turn it around, but I don't know how. I believe it's too far gone, and we're just so stuck. There's nothing more for us to do. We just have to separate. Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is anything is possible. And yes, it can be, because when you have a different understanding of how things work, when you understand your flavor and you are so aware of how you're showing up, you've got more choice in a moment of now to bring something completely different to the table. And as you start to experience it in real time, and this is absolutely what my clients start to see, my students, they start to experience this in real time, and they get to see the change that happens that gets reflected back at them. And it is the most amazing thing whenever I get that. And I just had this with a client this week say to me, oh my goodness, Fiona, we have just had the best week. They've been separated for a while, living in separate houses since the beginning of the year. And she had a session, her first session with me a couple of weeks ago, then the second one, and she said, Fiona, that's the best week we've had since we separated, because I know what I'm bringing to the table. I have a greater understanding of what I'm doing, and the change in my husband is unbelievable. Okay, so I guess what I want to say is we have a lot more power and influence over something than we truly ever understand, and that, when you understand that and you change and you bring a different energy to things, and you're calmer and grounded and more present, it has a very profound and often immediate, not always, effect on someone. And you actually give space for that person to step into something, and that's when you start to get traction. That's when things start to shift. That's when you start to see what's possible. That's when people put down mental load, they put down the armor, they put down the self-defense, and all of a sudden, now you can actually connect, right? And it's like, and people like, I can't believe this. We've been trying to change this for months, and I don't understand what's happening here. And it's like, it's very empowering. All of a sudden, you are creating change from a place of empowerment versus disempowerment. Okay, so I know this is a very long-winded answer, but I think this is so relevant to so many of you who are listening. If you are trying to create change from a disempowered place, you will be doing the very opposite to what you want, which I have a suspicion is what is happening here. I could be wrong, because I'm only responding to a paragraph that this has been sent through. And when you change how you show up, the impact is immediate and really quite profound and incredibly hopeful. Okay, so all of a sudden, instead of feeling like you've got this mountain to climb, all of a sudden you're starting to see exactly what is possible. All right. So I really want you to know this, because, when people see this, they become hopeful. Now, hope is very important. Do you know why? Just think about it. The feeling of hope. How does it feel? It feels lighter. It feels uplifting. Your mind is expansive. You stop focusing and fault finding on everything you stop focusing on everything that's wrong. You stop evidence gathering. You stop fault finding. You start to see things differently. Just that alone, right, brings a different energy. And it has an impact on the other person, because we are energetic beings. Okay, I'm going to check in on some of the comments here. Hey, Sharon, nice to see you. Welcome. Really nice to see you. Christy, I'm going to come back to your question. Hey, Brian, always a pleasure to see you. Andrew, hello. Cecily, hello. Darlene, thank you. Long but a great answer. Thank you, Darlene. Appreciate that. Okay, appreciate the feedback, guys. I really do. And Christy, you're saying everything you've said applies to us. Our energy is completely negative. We can't seem to have a conversation without arguments anymore, as there is so much resentment. Sydney, Australia. Okay. Well, I really want you to know it doesn't have to be that way. And it's easier to change than you think. It truly is. It really is. Hey, Christine, thanks for saying hi. I really appreciate it. I really want you to know this, Christy. Okay? You can change that. You don't need to solve everything in the past in order to do it. You don't. You truly don't. It doesn't mean that you're sweeping things under the rug either, but you can actually change this. One person can do it. Okay, really, we do not understand how powerful we are. And when you approach something from a place of empowerment, it has a very big impact on the people around you. It's very profound. It feels amazing. And it just grows and grows and grows. I mean, I was actually just saying to someone this morning, I was having a chat with a lady this morning who's just joined my Relatable program. I said to her, when I think about where my husband and I were, and I truly believed I was married to the wrong person. I truly believed that I just didn't love him anymore, that we were done, that we'd come to the end of the road. When I think of where we are now, so we're just about to celebrate our 19th wedding anniversary. And, my husband came home from work yesterday and he walked in the door and I said to him, it's so good to see you. I've missed you today. And he said, me too. I just couldn't wait to come home and see you. And we had this moment. We had a kiss. We looked at each other. We had a cuddle. He went off and did what he did. I was off doing what I was doing. But there's this very strong connection. And, our eyes still meet across the road and I have flip-flops in my tummy. I enjoy his company. I can't wait to hang out with him, and not from a place of neediness, whatever. I'm quite an independent person. He's quite independent. We have our own interests. We do whatever. But there's just this deep, strong connection, this lovely goodwill. We have each other's back, and it just gets better and better over time. We've gotten older. We've put weight on in places we didn't have weight on when we met. We've got more wrinkles. We've got whatever. And we're still as attracted to each other, enjoy each other's company, and really have a great time together. Now, when I look at where I was and where I am, the gratitude I feel is beyond words. I get really teary about it because I think of how close we came to not having that, to not having this. And if really where I felt at the time, I believed everything that I'm saying to you now, that we were done, that we had nothing in common, that I was married to the wrong person. I should have written a list of what I wanted. That was my, blah, blah, blah. I had all of this, and all I could see were our differences. And my husband and I are quite different in many ways. Okay. But when there's enough goodwill, the differences are irrelevant. They don't matter. People don't separate because of differences. They separate because of a lack of goodwill. They separate because their minds are racing. They're overthinking. They're not present. There's no bandwidth. They separate because they don't know how to navigate their own frailties. They don't know how to navigate another person's frailties. They separate because they don't know how to listen. They separate because they don't know how to speak to somebody else's reality. These are things that you need to be able to do really well, and they're easy. Okay? Doing those things is easy. Truly, much, much easier than you realize. Being able to understand and speak to someone else's reality, life-changing, amazing in a relationship. Being able to deeply listen, absolutely incredible. It's the heart and soul of connection. Being able to navigate your own frailties, because we've all got them, right? We've all got aspects of ourselves that come out that aren't so hot, right? How do you navigate that? Where you don't feel ashamed and guilty and like you're a terrible person. And then, from there, we are a lot more defensive. We don't take feedback very well. We project, we get angry, we shut down. Can you see how all of these things that can then contribute to then bringing out the worst in somebody else? And, when I look back on things, my husband and I were just bringing the worst out in each other, and we had been for a very, very long time. Now we bring out the best in each other. Don't get me wrong. We still have our arguments. My husband and I definitely have arguments. We definitely have disagreements. We definitely have moments where he drives me crazy, where I drive him crazy. Like, we have all of those. But, we have this wonderful history of dealing with conflict well. And so when we have an argument, it's not scary for me and it's not scary for him, because we know that we will get through it by having each other's backs. We know that that we have each other's best interests at heart. We know that on the other side of that, we'll be fine. We know all of this. So an argument isn't this terrifying thing, which it is for so many of you. Okay, so these are the things that are on offer. Okay, these are the things that are on offer. Now, Christy, I'm going to come back to your question here. Hi, military wag here, married 12 years and last 1.5 or so year living separate but close by due to posting. In this time, hubby has drifted further and further away, and we, 9-year-old son and I, see and hear from him less and less. He doesn't seem to care about us anymore, and he's very distant, and communication is virtually zero. Seems to now be a lot of contempt and resentment now. Okay. I'm really sorry to hear that, Christy. Okay, it's hard, right? When there's a lot of contempt and resentment, really hard. What you want to know, though, contempt and resentment is a defense mechanism. Okay, it's a defense mechanism. That is like, it's kind of like, you have to think of it like a wounded animal. Okay, if you've seen those videos of people who rescue animals that have been abused and where they don't have any trust. And, the first thing they want to do is keep everyone away from them. So they bite, they lash out. And then as the human stays patient and present and loving and kind, the animal starts to put down its defenses and trust. Okay. Now, this is very, very, very important. Generally, contempt, and look, there are exceptions to what I'm saying. I get that. But don't focus on the exceptions. Focus on the fact that this applies to most people most of the time, right? That when there's contempt and resentment, there is something that you need to look at within yourself. And we all have to have the humility and grace to be able to do that. And look at something in ourselves from a place of, is there something I am bringing to the table that's contributing to this? Is there something that I'm bringing to the table that's contributing to this? And being able to ask yourself that question from a place of empowerment, not judgment, that's disempowerment, not making yourself wrong, but really ask yourself that question. Am I contributing to this in any way? And be honest with yourself, because if you are, then you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do about that? Right? What am I going to do about that? I can't just wait for the other person to change. Can you see how that doesn't make sense? I'll change if you do. So you've got the other person there going, well, I'll change if you do. And you just become this stalemate. It's very empowering when you can see that there's something that you're bringing to the table. And when you make a decision, it's time for me to do something about this. It's just time. It's time for me to do something about this. Because I can tell you right now, and I was saying this to the lady I was speaking to this morning, whatever you're bringing to the table in this relationship, you will bring to the table in the next. All right? You will. You'll just do the same thing with the next person. It will get to this point. Because it's a sign of those things that I've talked about. You not being able to navigate your own frailties. You not being able to get over yourself. Okay. And I know that's a harsh thing to hear, but people really struggle with it. I was terrible at it. Couldn't get over myself, would get on my high horse and would be up there for days at a time. I was terrible at it. Okay. I don't have any problem with that anymore. I mean, I could probably still do better around that in different areas for sure. We're all a bit of a work in progress around that. But honestly, I can get over myself in 5 seconds. And getting over myself looks something like this. Hey, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have said that. That wasn't great of me. My tone wasn't great. I apologize. Done. Right? Now, when you do that in a relationship, a number of things happen. Now, only apologize if, again, you're not. See how I'm apologizing from a place of empowerment. Okay? I'm not apologizing from a place of disempowerment. So disempowerment might look like this, right? I really want you to see the difference. Disempowerment might look like this. Say you've had a fight and the other person is is not talking to you, and you go up to them and you say, what's the matter? Why aren't you talking to me? What's wrong? What's wrong? And they don't say anything. And so you then, out of frustration and desperation, say, all right, I'm sorry. I don't even know what I did wrong, but okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you being upset. I'm sorry for whatever's happened. I'm sorry. Okay. Can we just work it out now? Can we see? That's total and utter disempowerment. And all that does is push the other person away. Okay. Or find it harder for them to step into things. When you say sorry from a place of empowerment, you do so from and empowerment comes from a knowing of many things. Okay. But one of those things is what belongs to you and what belongs to somebody else. It's also about how present you are to what's going on in that moment. There's a number of things that create that sense of empowerment. Okay. But when you say sorry from a sense of empowerment, you're apologizing, but you're also not you're apologizing with nothing on it, meaning I'm going to apologize for my role. What you do with that is up to you. I'm not going to apologize and then sit there and go, now it's your turn. You better say something back to me. I better hear something back from you. Why haven't you apologized to me? Da, 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 da. That's just disempowerment. I'm going to apologize and go, okay, I've apologized for my role in this. I can see that I didn't handle that very well. Now, what the other person does with that is up to them. And so I'm providing space for the other person to come back to. I'm not doing what I would call horse trading. Well, I'm going to say sorry, but you better say sorry back. I'm going to admit my part, but you better admit yours. That doesn't work, right? It doesn't. Long term, it just creates a lot of resentment and contempt and frustration. Is this making sense what I'm saying? Okay, I'm just going to read some of these comments. There's a lot of comments here. Hey, Cecily, honey, so nice to see you. Hey, Andrew, so lovely to have you here. Truly, I hope you're well, Andrew. Okay. I'm the pusher and he shut down. Although I'm nearly too shut down now to so many don't make this an issue. It doesn't need to be attitude and messages. Yeah, okay. All right. So is it as long as you don't have an expectation that will all work out? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Mick. And I think I know your situation. This is a little bit different to this. You're talking about a friendship, okay? You're talking about a friendship that hasn't worked out. And I think the thing that you need to accept, Mick, is that they don't want the friendship to work out, okay? They're just not interested. But that's not the answer that you want to hear, so you keep pushing against it. Okay, you keep pushing against it. And I say this, it's really important in any relationship, all right? If the relationship is struggling, the only way you can really know the truth of something, okay? And it's hard for me to explain this, but I'll do my best without the understanding that I teach. But anyway, I'll do my best for you to understand that. So when you have the understanding that I teach, you're a lot more neutral. The impact of that is you're a lot more neutral, you're a lot more present, you're a lot more calmer, you're not as loaded. And so what that means is that you show up to things without these massively high expectations. You show up to things really neutrally. You show up to things and allow the other person to have whatever their experience is. You're not trying to control, manage somebody else, which is what we do so much of, okay? You're a lot more aware of where your well-being comes from. You have a lot more understanding of how we create our reality. You relate to your thinking differently. So you have this ability to show up quite neutrally, even if things are toxic out here. And you have this ability to hold space. And it's when you've done that for a period of time, right? What you've then created is space for someone else to step into. You've taken all the pressure off. And it's only then that you really can see the forest for the trees and you can really start to get a sense of what's on offer. And so what I say to people is, if you're in a toxic cycle with somebody, whether it be a friend, whether it be a parent, whether it be your lover, partner, whatever, right? when you create that space and you do that consistently over a period of time, what tends to happen is you give space for the other person to start to feel safer, calmer, all those sorts of things, and then for them to get access to fresh thinking, for them to get access to insights, for them to actually start to see what's possible for them, what they really want. So it clears the decks, so to speak. Now, if you've done that consistently for a period of time and the other person still does not want to meet you there, then you have your answer. Okay? And the thing is, you will then know within yourself, and I think this is an important thing for all of us in order to be able to move forward, if that's where things end up, for you to truly, deeply know that you did everything that you could. I think this is an important thing for someone to know. I know I did everything that I could. There's such an incredible amount of peace in that knowing, right? And it is a knowing that you can draw from as you move forward, even if it's meant that the relationship hasn't worked out the way you had hoped or wanted it to. That knowing becomes the thing that comforts you. That knowing becomes a thing that you draw from, that you gain strength from, that you're able to move forward from. Okay? Now, what is really important, okay, is that we often reach these crossroads in life, and this is a conversation I talk about quite in depth with my students, where the answer is right in front of us, but we don't want to see it. Okay? And I think that's the case with you, Mick. There's an answer in front of you, but you don't want to accept it and you don't want to see it, so you keep pushing against it. Okay? And so that's your journey for you to let go. That's up to you, right? Now, that's probably about as deep as I can go around that right now, but I'm gonna leave you with that one, Mick, because that's truly where I think you're at. Brian, I love the meeting of minds. I'm simply listening to you, Fee. Amazing way to communicate when listening is all that needs to happen. Yes, there's an incredible feeling when you deeply listen to someone where you're present. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know? Truly, it's so rare. It's so rare where you are truly present to another human being. It's incredibly rare. Now, you do that with another person, you will touch that person deeply. You will pierce their armor. Okay? The feeling of it, the energy of it will pierce their armor. And this is what I start to see again and again and again and again when people have this understanding. And as they start doing that, the sense of empowerment, the lightness, the relief, oh my goodness, they start to feel good. They notice how good the other person feels, and it grows. It's like I said, it's like compound interest. It grows and grows and grows. Okay. This is how I feel. Will it be okay as long as I expect nothing and accept any crumbs he may accidentally drop? See, here's the thing, Christy. Just even what you're saying there, will it be okay as long as I expect nothing and accept any crumbs he may accidentally drop? And I'm going to say this with love, honey, all right? You are seething with resentment. There's so much resentment in that statement. That energy, that's not neutral. That's totally different. That's fully loaded, honey. That's what you've got to see is what's on the other side of that feeling. Because no, it won't be okay, because you will just, every time you think he's dropping you a crumb and you decide more and he's done this and he's done that, can you see? You're just going to get more and more frustrated, more and more angry. So no, from that state of mind, absolutely not. But all I'm going to say is it doesn't have to be that way. Simone, hey Simone, this is such sound advice, not just for a marriage. I have a beautiful, loving 36-year strong marriage, but this is relevant advice for all our life relationships. Yes, it is. Family, children, and even our relationship with ourselves. Deep gratitude for insights. Oh, thank you, Simone. That's such a lovely thing to say. It's a long comment, so I'll just put it up here for you guys to see. Yes, this is true for every single relationship in your life. This is absolutely. You can apply this to your relationship with you, your relationship with life, your relationship with others, with any relationship. Guys, this is why I say I am so passionate about this. Being great at this stuff is fundamental to every area of your life. Being great at relationships is a fundamental life skill. Don't wait till your relationship's falling apart and you're in so much pain you can't think straight. Just see this as this amazing skill that you're going to learn and understanding that you just take with you everywhere you go, right? Christy, 100% I'm contributing. Good for you and being able to see that, honey. Okay. That takes humility. It's not easy to see. Now it's like, okay, what are you going to do about it? All right. Just like me, when I realized I was contributing, it's like, wow, what am I going to do about that now, Fiona? Because, I had a lot of arrogance. And I say arrogance because I've done a lot of personal development work. I've done a lot of programs. I'd invested a lot of money in my own growth. I really thought I was pretty good. I thought I had this stuff sorted. Like I was, so my husband and I would have issues and I would quite arrogantly sit there and say, well, that's your problem. You haven't worked on yourself enough. I've worked on myself. I'm good. I've worked myself out. I have this going around. I'm laughing because I find it hilarious. I had this going around in my head all the time. That's your problem because I've worked on my stuff. I've sorted out I've healed my childhood wounds. I've dealt with my trauma from the past. I'm actually really good. I've put in the time. I've put in the hours. This is definitely your problem. God, so arrogant. Seriously, it's hilarious. Hey, Sandy. All right. Thank you so much, Mick, Diane, for you. Is there a way to help people to understand the separabilities of each of us and to be aware that everything isn't always as they see or think and be more empathetic to others' realities? It is, Diane, but what I'm going to say is there is, but it's so interesting. I think that's a great question. It's so interesting because once you have this understanding, the desire to want to do that disappears. You become more and more okay, and I mean genuinely okay. I mean authentically okay, not pretending over the top of, genuinely authentically okay with how someone else is showing up. You stop trying to control someone else's experience of the world. You are a lot more patient and loving and kinder, and so it kind of flows out from there. And you'll find that and this is what I say to my relatable students and my clients, because they'll often say, oh, I want to teach this to someone. This is so amazing. I want my kids to know this, or my best friend or my sister or my whatever. And it's like, you keep showing up from that place and create a sense of curiosity so that there's a doorway open for them to step into. And the curiosity is, wow, you seem so different. You're just so chill and calm and lighter. And what's happened? There's curiosity. There's a place for them to step into, and then you can share how what you've seen. But if you're doing it from a place of, I think that person would be happier if they did this. I think this person would be better if they did this. No, doesn't go down very well. People tend to get resentful because it feels like it's almost playing off on that one of our universal fears that we're not enough, right? Or we don't belong. So everything is all about the space with which you come from. And when you have a deep understanding of yourself, and that comes when you can see how things work, you know exactly where you're at. And so that gives you a heck of a lot more choice than when you don't know where you're at, when you don't realize the impact that you're having, and you're seeing the same thing happen again and again and again. So I hope that answers that question. Brian, relatable is the best way to learn, but we can't force it upon others. 100%. Very, very, very true. We cannot force this upon anybody. Okay, everyone. Wow, I've been speaking for 43 minutes. Oh my goodness, time really flies. I hope that this has been helpful and informative with you guys, or for you guys. If anybody wants to know about relatable, if anybody would like to know about it, this is where I teach this understanding step by step by step. There's Q&A calls. There's an amazing community. If you want to know anything about it, you can book a call with me and have a chat. There is also a chat bot on my Facebook page where you can find out a bit more about relatable through the chat bot as well. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to share this time with you. If you have a question that you want me to answer for you, you can send it through to hello@fionalukeis.com.au and just say Friday live Q&A, and I'll answer it for you next Friday. Okay, everybody, take care. Thank you so much for your comments and for saying hi to me. Have a great week. Ciao.